There are moments in life that define everything that comes after. Selling a business, letting go of property, exiting something you spent years, maybe decades building. And at that moment, most people believe that the work is done. But what if I told you that how you sell could determine whether you keep your wealth or quietly give 30 to 40% of it away? Today's conversation is not just about taxes. It's about awareness, timing, and strategy. Because once the deal closes, most of your options close with it. And that's why this matters so much. Today, I'm honored to share this space with someone who's helped countless individuals step into that moment with clarity, strategy, and confidence. Greg Reese. Welcome to Money 911. Greg, tell me, why do so many smart, successful people get to the finish line and still lose a massive amount of their wealth?
That's a great question, Kris. And being a business owner and entrepreneurs, and I deal with business owners every single day of my working life. And, I don't know that I have a satisfactory answer other than to say that I think that people are more focused on growing and building and being in the trenches and making things happen. And they don't really give a lot of consideration to the exit planning time. I mean, at some point, you're going to want to retire or pass it on to the next generation or what have you. And it's like an afterthought because they're so focused on building, they forget to plan for the next chapter.
Exactly. And, there's a belief that, what that people have about taxes that, what would you say actually costs them money?
Well, it's something that I think most people don't actually realize until they're already in the throes of an exit strategy. And it doesn't really occur to them until sometime during that exit process or just after. Because of the business I'm in, we kind of have a fun little saying. It's like when I'm talking to somebody like you, I would say, Kris, we should become friends because friends don't let friends pay taxes.
That's great. Yeah.
And that's pretty much what we specialize in. But I
Right.
think it's just they're not aware. Well, they're aware that there are taxes. They believe that taxes are inevitable. It's like Ben Franklin said, the only thing certain in this world is death and taxes, right? People think that they're inevitable, yet they don't understand the scope of what that looks like until way down the path.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and it's timing plus urgency. So, if someone's listening today, even thinking about selling in the next 1 to 3 years, what should they be doing now?
Well, if you're looking to sell in the next 1 to 3 years, and again, the biggest assets that we deal with and are pretty much what most people have are either investment real estate or they have a business, right? And what's interesting that everybody should be aware of is that there are answers, there are solutions, there are options. So you have to be able to pick the outcome that you want to achieve because you can have a different path. Most people don't plan ahead, and that's the
Right.
key. And you mentioned that right there. They don't plan ahead, and so they end up with an outcome that may be less desirable. Now, if it's a business, then you should probably get connected with a professional business broker or a qualified individual that can help you understand what your business is truly worth. Because typically, what happens in that space is most business owners, myself included, feel that our business is worth more than somebody else in the marketplace is willing to pay for it. It's our baby. It's worth a
Right.
lot. They're precious.
Right.
We believe it's worth a lot more because of all the blood, sweat, and tears we put into it. But an outside person looking to buy it from you may put a different value in it. So it's important to work with somebody who helps you position your business, your books, and your processes to make it attractive more attractive for somebody who would want to come in and buy that business from you. And pre-planning is the key.
Great point. So, strategy plus simplicity. And, you and I have known each other for a while, and I just was so, I've been doing estate planning, living trust, revocable trust for 36 years. And you explained to me, and I want you to explain to everybody, the deferred sales trust in a way that, someone that doesn't have financial background would immediately understand.
Right. So the deferred sales trust, which is a very unique and specialized capital gains tax deferral strategy. Backing up a little bit, it is something that is appropriate to consider in advance of your sale for exiting from a business, exiting from a highly appreciated personal residence or investment real estate. It can also be used for collectibles such as art, could be used for things like crypto. Anything that can appreciate in value that at the time of sale would trigger a capital gains event is where the DST comes into play. But before talking too deeply about it, I want to give you room because you got great questions, so I want to make sure I do this properly. But it's really about having the opportunity to plan in advance. You can create a different outcome from just going with the flow and believing that taxes are inevitable. So take a typical business owner. A business owner has, they've invested so much of their life, and their wealth is mostly captured inside of that business. And at some point, they may want to sell and exit from the business. And they get a number in mind, right? They get a number in mind that they think they could retire on that would generate enough income so that they could live their best life in retirement. What they usually don't think about early enough is the impact of taxes on their sale. And, we jokingly say in real estate and business sales, you get a seller's estimated closing statement, right, before your deal is done. And it tells you what your sales price is and what the expenses of the transaction are. And then it tells you if there's any debt payoff, and it gives you the bottom line, net to seller. The biggest expense on every closing statement isn't even on the closing statement. It's the tax impact. So what happens is people think that their net proceeds are what they're going to live on. Then they become aware of the magnitude of the tax problem. Now, if you're selling a business, in my experience, most of the sales price is taxable. 90 to 100% of the sales price is taxable. Unlike real estate, where the only thing that's taxable is the amount you made above what you paid. That's taxable in real estate. In a business, 90 to 100% of your sales price is taxable. So that means that depending on where you live, what state you live in, that could be anywhere from 24% total tax to up to 37 to 40% in tax. And so what happens is the sellers see that number and it causes fear and anxiety because they've worked so hard for what they've grown, and they're going to take a huge chunk of it in one moment, in one event, and give it off to the government.
Oh,
It's
that's
crazy.
crazy.
It's
That
crazy.
is really crazy. I've never heard those numbers before, and it's like shocking. Like, okay, maybe. Anyway, yeah. And so, you talk to a lot of different people. What makes this strategy different than most advisors really aren't talking about it? I don't hear a lot of people talking about it.
Sure. Well, it's a strategy that's very specialized and very niche.
Right.
There are only really a handful of legal strategies that can be used to mitigate taxes. I'll give you the quick list. So, in real estate, one of the strategies that investment real estate owners look towards is a 1031 exchange. Everybody knows about 1031 exchanges. They've been in the code for about 45 years, and there's a lot of people involved in them, from real estate professionals to escrow to title to attorneys to accountants. Everybody understands 1031 exchanges. Then there's charitable trust planning. So charitable remainder trust planning can allow you to eliminate the capital gains taxes by putting your asset into a charitable trust before you sell it, and then live essentially off the proceeds with some tax benefits over your lifetime or a set period of years, whichever you choose. Tends to be relatively inflexible, and generally it can work. And for people that really have a charitable inclination, because what happens is, unlike the revocable living trust, what happens when we die, our children receive our inheritance for the most part, right? In a charitable trust, when you die, your children don't get anything. Your designated charities get whatever's left over, right? Not everybody wants to see that happen. And so sometimes that's not for them. Plus, the structure of it is such that you're going to get an income stream for life, generally speaking. However, you can't access principal if you have an emergency. You can't change your payments if the cost of living goes up too high. You're kind of more or less on a fixed income for the rest of your life. So there's not a lot of flexibility in that. Then there's a relatively new concept called the opportunity zone or qualified opportunity zone, which was really created under the first Trump administration. And they've just updated the law with the latest bill, what they call the big beautiful bill. Some people call it the big ugly bill, depending on what side you're on. It doesn't matter.
Right.
But they kind of reinforced some of the benefits of that particular legislation. What that does in a nutshell is it allows you to sell like real estate or a business. And then within 9 months of the sale, this is the only planning technique that you could actually do after the sale is closed. Everything else you have to do planning ahead of time. Very important. But within 9 months of your close, you could reinvest some or all of your proceeds into what's called an opportunity zone fund. And opportunity zone funds are where the government has created a national map, state by state, using the governors of each state to say, these are the sections and the counties and the places in our state that could use revitalization. In other words, updating, improving, more building or what have you. It could be rural or urban areas. So these areas are all, and then sponsors come in and they create projects within these sections of the map, and they raise capital for investors, and they will develop that property into various uses. Mostly it's real estate stuff. There are some opportunity zones in the oil and gas space. Mostly it's real estate.
Wow. Yeah.
But the way it kind of works is whatever you sold, you will still have to pay capital gains on it, but it will be deferred for a period of time forward. Under the old laws, it was no more than 5 years, and then you'd have to pay the taxes. Under the updated law, it could go out potentially up to 10 years. You would still owe the tax bill on what you sold. But the trade-off is on the other side, whatever you invested into, let's say you did a development project to build apartment units or commercial or put in cell towers and create help with distributing Wi-Fi to areas of the country that don't have good Wi-Fi, for example. So these kinds of projects you could be invested in. If you hold that investment for anywhere between 7 to 10 years, then and it gets sold at that point, then it reduces your capital gain on the next project down to as much as zero if you hold it for a full 10 years. Wow. If you hold it 7, you get some forgiveness and so forth. So some people like that. And but you're reinvesting back into a single asset class, which may or may not be the best investment by itself as your main investment for all those years. So there's some pros and there's some cons like anything. And then there's the deferred sales trust, which allows sellers to defer the capital gains at the time of sale with any kind of appreciating asset that you want, allows those funds to be reinvested in any asset class you would want them to be invested in. So it could be back into active real estate, it could be into the financial markets, securities, bonds, ETFs, everything of that nature, private placements and equity or debt on real estate, the sky's the limit on what the money can be reinvested into. And the idea is that you are going to receive all of your sales proceeds back over a period of time. So it's based on installment sale rules, whereby when you sell, instead of electing to take all the proceeds in the year of sale, which is the trigger for owing taxes, you would instead make a conscious decision to say, I will take some of my proceeds in 1 or more years after the year of sale, thereby only having to recognize and pay tax on what you choose to receive, and deferring the taxes on everything else, which is growing. Think of it this way. Think of it as though you're selling your business, you're selling your real estate, and 100% of the proceeds before taxes goes into a trust created for you that acts like it's your 401k plan.
Yeah.
Meaning that the similarities are like this. If I had money in my 401k plan, I'm probably going to reinvest it so I can generate income or growth or both. Who decides what it gets invested? You do. We have professional guidance and help to make recommendations and do research and analysis for you. But at the end of the day, you always decide what your money is invested into. Number two, just like a 401k plan, you think about what you need to draw from it. Let's say we're retiring. Okay, I built up a 401k plan. Now it's time to flip the switch and start drawing income from it to replace the money when I was still working. This operates kind of in the same way, in that you decide what you need coming to you, set up an income schedule, define your payments, and those payments can change over time. So if things get more expensive, you could increase the amount. Unlike the charitable option, you could increase the amount. If you've got too much income that you really don't need to spend this year, you leave it in the trust, just like leave it in the 401k plan, because you only have to pay tax on what you choose to withdraw from it. So it's very flexible for people that need current income, maybe need a lump sum, but not all the money, and they're willing to pay tax on just what they need, or people that want to defer and then turn on the income stream, in the future months or a couple years later. So it's super flexible and beneficial. That's really kind of the highlights of it.
Wow, that's amazing. Everybody should know about it. It really fits into the conversation I have a lot of creating income you'll never outlive. There's so many creative things you can do with what you just said. It is a mic drop. Speaking of mic drop question, if you could sit down with every business owner before they sold, what's the one thing that you really would want them to understand?
Well, what I always, in my position, I always want them to be able to visualize the next chapter of their life. So when I'm talking to a new person, I'm always more interested in understanding, why are you considering selling at this time? And what are you hoping to accomplish by reason of selling? In other words, paint the picture for me. What's the next chapter look like? Forget about the details for now. Let's just focus on, how do you see your life in the ideal world now that you're thinking about selling it? Because you're selling it for a reason. Sometimes it's because of health or time or other considerations, but usually you're going to have a next chapter in mind. I want to understand that first. Okay. Then I want them to understand that that next chapter can be built under two options. One is an after-tax world, which limits your ability to generate, more income for yourself. It limits your ability to grow your wealth for the future and as a legacy for your family, and that ties right into the estate planning. And the other is deferring the taxes, using the money you would have paid in taxes in the year of sale, working directly for your benefit to generate that income, to increase that wealth, or a combination of both. And yes, you will still pay taxes, but instead of the IRS determining how much and when, you flip the switch. You determine how much you're going to pay in taxes by deciding how much you need to live on from year to year, because you're only going to pay taxes on that little amount. What it also does for you is it generally decreases the tax brackets you will pay taxes in. When you're deferring it, you're keeping the money, and it's like getting an interest-free loan from the IRS,
Yeah.
where they say, you know what, on $1 million sale, you might owe us $300,000 or $400,000, right?
Right.
Instead of paying us that money right now, tell you what, you keep the money for as long as you want. Eventually, you have to pay us that 300,000 or 400,000, but in the meantime, invest it and keep everything you make. Use that money for as long as you want. Not only yourselves, but if you want to use this as a legacy asset, you can pass the same thing down to your kids, and they could do the same thing, as long as someday the IRS gets paid that $300,000 or $400,000 taxes. So, what would you rather do? Pay it incrementally over the next 10, 20, 30 years, or pay it now? And
Right.
is it going to be worth the same? Is
Right.
$300,000 or $400,000 I stroke a check for today going to have the same value to me as the same check I might stroke 10 or 20 years from now, where I get to keep everything I make on that money? No. I was right in, Kris, to your, your core passion is, not outliving your money.
Right.
One of the roadblocks to outliving your money is to have an event that sucks out a third or more of that money to taxes, when it could be used to generate more income or wealth for you.
It's brilliant. It's brilliant, Greg.
Simple, right?
Yeah. And I mean, it gets me because, like, how come nobody knows about it? I mean, it really, I mean, I've been doing trusts, and when we first met and you explained it to me, I had never really heard of it. I've heard it vaguely, but the way you explained it was so many benefits.
Well, there's a reason for that. I mean, as I said earlier, it's very specialized and niche. And, we've been doing the DST for about 28 years now. So our tax attorneys really developed this under applicable IRS code sections, and have successfully completed now north of 4,000 transactions totaling north of $200 billion. So you're saying, that's right. Why haven't most of us heard of it? Well,
Mhm.
it's because it's a small subset of professionals that actually do this. We're the architects of this. We've been doing it 28 years. Our competition has not even is less than a handful, and they've been doing it less than 3 or 4 years. It takes 10 years or more to get the requisite IRS scrutiny behind you for them to say, this is for us to say this is legal, proven, and IRS tested. We have never had an adverse finding in all of those cases, and we have had all of the IRS scrutiny that you can imagine over the last
Sure.
28 years. And every single time they say, what you're doing is complicated, but it's legal. And the
Right.
reason why a lot of other professionals haven't learned about it yet is because, most like CPAs, for example, you would think that they would be on top of this.
Right.
But most CPAs are not tax strategists. We share a friend who's a tax strategist, gets really into the ways to really use the tax code to your advantage. But they do tax returns, and they spend their downtime educating themselves on how to prepare for next year's tax returns and the laws that have changed. They don't deal in strategy. What they do understand is 1031 exchanges. So, a lot of these people just focus on strategies that are sort of traditional and commonplace, like 1031 exchanges, which only work or can only work for real estate investors. So you have to get to like the top 5% of licensed CPAs that actually do tax strategy. So we're finding that because there's a very limited number of solution providers like us, and a lot of the other practitioners are focused on more traditional things, that until they learn about it through a client or a friend or a webinar like this, then they're going to say, I didn't know about that. And then they're going to want to learn more.
Right.
But that's the
Right.
reason.
Well, that's why we're broadcasting. Tell everybody the best way they can get in touch with you.
Well, the best way to get in touch with us, so we've got a website, got an email, and we've got a phone number. So if I want to give all those, so it's
We'll put a lot of it up
yeah,
there too.
and our firm is Reef Point LLC. We serve as sort of the professional trustee in the mix. our team with every client, just so you know, is one of our tax attorneys, who I call the architects of the strategy, an independent trustee, which is a vital role, and then a licensed independent financial advisor that can help guide and recommend, what to do with your money to deliver on your goals, dreams, and aspirations in terms of income growth and whatnot. So the best way to get a hold of us is to have a look at our website, reefpointusa.com, Reef Point, and you can see it behind my shoulder there, reefpointusa.com. And there's ways to connect and schedule Zoom calls and get a lot of education there. Our toll-free number is 866-867-8633. And my email address is Greg, Greg, at reefpointusa.com. I invite everybody to take a look at the website. There's videos, there's webinars that you can watch. There's a lot of information you can read, and it's a good baseline for having a conversation. And there's lots of places on the website where you can book a call.
Yeah, book a call. Without sharing the names, last question here. You don't have to share the name, but give me a story where someone did this right and or missed it and paid the price. Either way, give me.
Boy, we have so many stories. I'll give you a quick story about, because this is a little bit more unique.
Okay.
Because we can also, not only can we help individuals and business owners, but sometimes you may own an asset collectively or collaboratively with another person, right? Like you and I go in on a real estate deal and we invest together for, the next 10 or 15 years, right? And at some point, we may want to dissolve the partnership and kind of go our own way. Not because we don't like each other, just we have different things we want to do. So I had a case with an older gentleman and a younger gentleman investing together for about 10 years. And the older gentleman wanted to free up more cash to help his kids. And they had invested from California into Nevada, and he was driving a lot back and forth to do things on the property and, just to make sure everything was going right. And he was getting tired of it. The younger partner, and he just wanted to sell. The younger party wanted to do a 1031 exchange. The problem was the older partner didn't want to do that. So we created a structure whereby they could sell the property. The older partner could use the deferred sales trust without any impact on his other partner to defer his share of the capital gains taxes, to get a little money out of it, but then set up an income stream that he could then live on for the rest of his life. The younger partner elected to do a 1031 exchange to take his share and to keep building that real estate empire that he wanted to build. But at the same time, we had the DST as a backup strategy for him. Didn't cost him anything. It was like a premium-free insurance policy, if you will, to say, if you can't find exactly what you're looking for, then the DST is here to rescue you from the tax bill.
That's awesome.
He was successful, and that was a great example of how this can be used in that way.
Great.
I've got we've got business owners that are increasing their after-tax sales proceeds, which anybody who knows anything about building wealth, it's not what you make or sell things for, it's what you keep. It's what actually hits your bank account. So if you have more money hitting your bank account, you have more flexibility, you have more freedom, and reinvesting those proceeds, you're not as tempted to take higher risk than you already took to get there. You can achieve your results if it's comfortable for you and take less risk and better diversification of your assets to deliver what you need. And so it's just an amazing it's an amazing outcome that most people don't know exists.
Right. And it's a great gift, and I'm really glad. I mean, that just opened up the package basically. We'll just have to do this again because I have tons more questions, but really, really good stuff. I mean, is there a threshold? I mean, like, do you work with people like that don't have a certain amount of money, or
That's
Like
a
say,
that's a great question. So yeah, there is kind of the minimum viable transaction size,
I
if you
would
will.
think so.
So really, if you are selling an appreciated asset and the gain portion, the profit portion, the gain
Right.
for the
Right.
appreciation is at
Mhm.
least $500,000,
Okay.
then that makes economic sense all day long for the deferred sales trust. So you're
Okay.
going to be paying taxes otherwise on $500,000. Imagine a third of that going to taxes.
Ah, right. Yeah.
150, $175,000 going
Crazy.
away to taxes, which would
Nuts.
give you, let's say 350,000 of that gain to reinvest
Yeah.
plus your other profit versus the full 500,
No,
so
that makes sense.
so
That
that's where it's at. So
that's
business,
it.
real estate, other assets.
Perfect. I'm glad I asked that. That's great.
That was a
Great.
great.
What? Go ahead.
That was a great question.
Okay, thank you. Well, you're a great guest and have a wonderful gift for people. And we'll look forward to having you back again. And thank you so much.
Thank you, Kris. Always a pleasure being with you.
All right.
All right. Take care.
You too.
Today's conversation is a reminder that wealth is not just built in the earning. It's protected in the decisions we make along the way. You've worked too hard, sacrificed too much to lose it in a moment you didn't fully understand. So take a breath, ask better questions, and give yourself the gift of time before you make your next move. Because the right strategy doesn't just protect your money, it protects your peace. Thank you for being here. And as always, may you live with clarity, confidence, and a future that truly reflects the life you were meant to create.
I've created the Safe Money Blueprint. This is the same strategy that thousands of my clients have used to feel secure about their financial future. And you can get it free at healthymoneyhappylife.com/blueprint.
There's so much to learn about healthy money. I hope today's discussion brings you one step closer to securing and protecting your future. So you can get started on the right foot, go to meetwithkrismiller.com and schedule your free financial fitness strategy session. Thank you for listening, and please subscribe to Money 911 so you don't miss our next episode, which includes health, wealth, and peace of mind.
The power of purpose. Doing well by doing good. The power of purpose. Doing well by doing good. The power to bless lives inside of